Today I will be completing the writing and language exam for the writing and language test for the April 2019 SAT. In this video I will be completing um, questions 1 through 22, and then the next video questions 23 through 44. And then the following videos there will be no calculator and calculator. So to begin off, out of many, one experience. On June 20th, 1965, farmers of the Kings were way more people than were. That doesn't sound grammatically correct, so no. There was an unusually large crowd, yes, because they didn't expect to have that many people, a whole bunch. The SAT doesn't like to use informal words like bunch, so that's incorrect. And also, don't enormous crowd of unparalleled. You wouldn't say in English unparalleled nature, so that's incorrect. Services at the university. Along with the 400 graduates, many people had come to hear the words of the year's commencement speaker, the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King. So it's about Dr. Martin Luther King. Let's see. The university was established by. Should a writer? Okay, they shouldn't make this addition here because this has nothing to do with the Dr. Martin Luther King. That's why. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. So he should not add it. No, because it interrupts the discussion of Dr. King's visit. Yes, was irrelevant. It had nothing to do with Dr. King. No, because it merely interested. No, they're not repeating any information of the University of West Indies. Next, Reverend Dr. Furthermore, the Jamaican audience was. There's no furthermore. No, they're not expanding on anything. As a result, there's no caused by contrast. There's nothing you're contrasting. Delete it. Yeah. You don't need anything there. Next. Through newspaper report and television, in effect of seeing Dr. King ascend to the podium just feet away from what they said was thrilling. The day's proceedings. This is not proceeding. This is an idiom. Precedence, no, proceedings. How the day went on. It's not procedures. Not only inspired the audience, but also further Dr. King's aim of Virginia solidarity between the two countries. Without even consulting notes, yeah, this is the dependent. Without even consulting notes, Dr. King began to speak passionately about challenges common. So this is, you put a comma between the dependent clause and this is the independent clause. Okay, let's keep going. Comment. So Jamaica and the United States. At the time, both countries were on the cusp of great change. Jamaica. So independence less than 3 years earlier, which would have they achieved it already. Which achieves, no, that's present. Which will have achieved, that's future. No, it already having achieved. They already did it. Having achieved was in the process of forming a government. Writers consider government. The United States, meanwhile, was on the path of explaining civil rights for its citizens. Yes, because this is for both countries. We're talking about United States and Jamaica. So you need to mention this, the United States. Yes, because it explains why the audience felt a strong connection. No, it was not about the connection to the it was building on this previous. They talked about Jamaica here. Now they have to talk about the United States because it provides support for the claim. Yes. Fixing his gaze on the graduating scene, Dr. King declared that the present generation must learn that no nation can live alone. We are all independent. He emphasized the need for a spirit of love and worldwide brotherhood in facing these challenges to come. Facing. That's an idiom question too. If you just think about it and sound it in your head, it makes sense. The challenge for Dr. King, Jamaica's newly minted national motto to many one people perfectly encapsulated this precept of unity. Dr. King spoke about unity that day. He also inspired it. So we have to start off with Dr. King first. So Dr. King spoke about unity by inspiring it that day. That doesn't sound right. I don't think that's right. Through speaking about, no, you need to start with Dr. King. Speaking about unity, no. Dr. King did not just speak about unity that day, he inspired. Yeah, this is better than this. It just sounds weird, by unity by inspiring. It. Question 10. Years later, here lived a great Sweden. For people building, so you need no punctuation. For people building a new nation, comma, so it's B. These words were particularly meaningful. Everyone's efforts had great worth. Everyone had an important role to play. This experience had a profound effect not only on... Okay, which just provides the best transition from the discussion. So in the previous paragraph, they were talking about the audience members. They all recalled that. So it was about the audience and how they were like, they really loved what Dr. King had said and stuff like that. So it was about the audience. These had a profound effect on not only on the audience, but also on Dr. King. Return to the moon. The King community of all people everywhere which has been praised by all nations. Next, when George II, Duke of Small German Principality called. Okay, so when George II, now it's explaining the modifier Duke of a Small German Principality called that, and this should end right here. So it should be the dash right here. The dash in the beginning here, and then because this is the modifying phrase, and then it stops right here, and then when George II, how we can know we can put a modifier here is when you take off this whole part, and if it establishes itself as a sentence, it works. So when George II established a local theater, so that makes sense. So that's how you know it works. It wouldn't make sense if you put the dash right here, established. When George II, Duke of whatever, blah blah blah, and then you put it here. When George II, a local theater, and that doesn't make sense. So that's how you know it can't be there. So it's not A, it's right here. You put it before the established. Okay. Which choice most effectively sets up the information that follows in the sentence? Okay. His high degree of involvement was unusual. While many people at the court theater, Duke would usually... Yes, this makes sense. This was the unusual part. George had been interested in the arts from a young age. There's nothing about mentioned about any age. Time was not a major cultural center. There's nothing about culture. The Duke maintained one of the best orchestras in Europe. Nothing about that. So it's A. And this is just explaining his work. Directors that giving actors contrast core advise actors. Which choice provides the best transition? So here they were talking about his works and what he did as the director. George had recruited several well-known actors. No, I don't think so. It was the beginning of May. Nothing about that. George had implemented many staging changes. Maybe George's work as a director was. I think this is the best because it's talking about his works right here. These were his works as a director. When the curtain rose at 7 p.m. on May 1st, the audience was immediately amazed by the productions. So it's one. It's not many. By the productions, and you need the possessive. Not on here on the after the end. So productions, elaborate sets, yes, but there's no possession of the sets. That doesn't make sense. It's not like the sets is possessing something. So it's like it's that. D. Which Borg had modeled after Roman originals. Columns and decorative sculptures occupied the foreground of the stage, while backdrop painted with images of columns and fig trees provided the optical illusion of that. Yes, it is. You need it because which columns and decorative sculptures occupied this of the strange, and as audience members marveled at that. So the sculptures was not only the thing that they were amazed at, it was also the images of columns and fig trees provided the optical illusion of that. So it supports the claim that it was not on the Roman, it was about how they were like captivated. They really enjoyed it. The spectacle, yes, that impressed members. Correct. Actors portraying Roman citizens streamed onto the stage, each bedecked in distinctive clothing, footwear, and headdress. You don't need with because it's parallelism. Each bedecked in distinctive clothing, footwear, headdresses. Which choice most effectively combines the sentences at the underlying portion? A trumpet then signaled the entrance of Caesar. His glittering toga. You don't want to say his glittering made him instantly distinguishable. Well, yes. Okay, wait. I misread it. It's just so Caesar. It was his. Maybe Caesar being. You don't want to say being. Caesar who was, that sounds the best even if you say it in your mind, who was distinguishable by his armor and toga. I think it's Caesar instantly his glow. No, that just adding too much. Caesar, it was, I think rather than it was and who was, I think we're talking about Caesar here, so who is the best pronoun to describe him. The choice provides the best introduction to the paragraph. The venue Gorgas company used was quite different from those used in Shakespeare's time. Well, do they talk anything about Shakespeare here? For example, well, they don't talk about Shakespeare, the comparison, so it can be A. Some audience were less enthusiastic. Doesn't talk anything about the audience. Choreographed the play's action with equal intricacy. Yes, that makes sense. The play emphasizes Caesar's influence over the Roman people. No, it's not the Roman. Next. For example, he set the stage for the climactic murder of Caesar by arranging the crowd of conspiring Romans in a circle surrounding Caesar, thereby suggesting the inescapability of the ruler's fate. He also carefully orchestrated the chaotic moments following the murder when the crowd spins out of control. Gorg split the crowd into smaller units, assigning. You don't have to say he because you're already talking about Gorg right there, so it's not no change. Units, assigning, yes. You don't need semicolon. There's no they're not both independent clauses. Wait, okay. Units and assigning, you don't put a comma and then and. It's and assigning. No, it's wrong. Dialogue and statements, thereby making the scene more realistic. One feels oneself present at the beginnings of a revolution. A theater critic wondered. No, it's not presumed or sensed. Okay, theater critic. Same. Well, I mean, if you were a critic, you would observe it. You wouldn't wonder it. So he observed at this climactic scene. It just makes more sense to say observe because critics observe rather than wonder when they see things. The same can be printed out. George Play was a hit, launching the Dukes group on a 17-year tour during which it delivered over 2,000 performances in venues throughout Europe, inspiring directors around the continent, designers. So inspiring directors around the continent. Who did it? It was Gorg. So you have to start off with Gorg. Inspiring directors around the blah blah blah. Gorg. So I have to start off with Gorg. Gorg's posthumous title was it? You want to say Gorg's was? Yes, he was posthumously dubbed as this. You don't want to say his posthumous title. He was posthumously dubbed as the Theater Duke. So his choice is D. That just makes the best sense. And this is it for the first part of the video. The next video will include the final part of the writing and language section.